Good morning, world. Meria here, alive and kicking. Welcome to Awaken with Meria and Monnica. And today I will tell you this before we get started. This is going to be a show on spiritual truth and spiritual weaponry. Okay, none of us are helpless. Some of us don't know what we need to do to make our lives happy. That's what we're going to talk about today. So, my guest and my co host, my friend, is Monnica Sepulveda. You can get over to her site, Monnica with two N's.com, and check out all the teaching, all the classes, everything she has available. So, good morning, Monica.
Hey, we are alive and kicking.
We are. So far, so
I'm in,
good.
yeah, I'm in a good place.
Well, I'll tell you what, besides my doctor telling me I could live 30 more years, I just had my Vedic astrology done, and he told me the same thing. So I
I
might
love
be the
it.
first 50-year run podcast on the internet by the time I'm done. Uh,
So
so
you're going part two into your life now, huh?
Well, I got to tell you, we have some serious fire south of me, and I want my audience to know if you can't get me on the phone, if you can't get me online, they are trying very hard to keep all our electric and power lines going in the middle of this fire because Arizona's as backwards as the rest of the country. And all our lines are above ground, right in the middle of a 14,000 acre fire. So
Mm.
don't panic and know that I'm smart enough to get out of Dodge if and when I have to. So I just wanted to preface that because, in this town, if we get a slight wind, we lose our internet. So
Oh my gosh, that the last time I lived it was just like that.
I know, I
It's
get
annoying.
a few drops of rain, bingo, the electric, everything's gone.
Everything's out, yeah.
So we have these fires, and you and I were just briefly talking about it before the show. And, I've had plenty of experience with fires since I've been living in Arizona for 30 years. And as a teacher of the medicine wheel, there are things you can do when you work with the elements. My teacher Sun Bear's specialty was bringing rain. He was called to
Yeah.
different parts of the world when they were in drought, and he would bring the rain. And Sun Bear used to say, people accused him of doing something supernatural, but he said, but it was always very natural for us to
Yeah.
interact with the elements,
Yeah.
before the world changed and all the controls came in, between religion demonizing what was natural to Native Americans,
And
and
heart.
to yeah, and to all of us. As I said to you before, fire is a living energy. Fire is
Yes.
alive, and anybody that doesn't get that has never really seen fire.
Oh
Uh,
well, I'm from California, so I'm very familiar.
right. And, several years ago, I had property north of where I am, and there was a huge fire coming. And I was on top of a mountain, and as people know, fire burns up. And it had engulfed a lot of the Tonto forest here.
Mm.
And there I am on my property while everybody's evacuating, packing their stuff, and leaving. And I went outside with a huge glass of pure, clean water, and I poured that water on the floor to inside my medicine wheel as an appeasement, as an offering to
Oh,
the
I got it.
fire.
Yeah.
And I told the fire, I understand you need to live, you're a breathing thing, but I would really appreciate it if you take a turn and go away from my property.
Yeah.
And I explained how it was a sacred space, how I live in harmony with nature, who I am, and what I do. And I offered the water to the property. Needless to say, it never came to my property. It stopped basically less than a half mile from my property.
That's how it works. There's the
Exactly.
solution to everything when you understand the energy. And like I said, I posted a whole bunch of stuff on Instagram today, and I'm under Monica Sepulveda. There's great quotations, and it talks all about everything being living, and we're connected to all of it. That people don't understand that everything, even inanimate objects, are also very much alive.
Exactly.
So
And if
wow,
it's
that's a great
right.
story, Maria.
Well, then tell you what, a week later, our friends who had property even north of that, it was in a town called Young, They had called us because they had to evacuate their property because there was fire very close, and they needed us to help them empty their trailer and get them safely out of there. So we drove up there, and they had a little girl. I can't tell you, Monica, maybe she was 5 years old, a little daughter, cute as a button. So while all the men are moving all the stuff, I looked at this little girl and I says, "You want to help me put out this fire?" And she looked at me. Kids are great.
Oh, yeah.
And she says, "Well, what do we have to do?" And I says, "We have to build a little medicine wheel." I said, and I gave her paper and crayons, and I told her, I let her draw the medicine wheel, and we taped it to the window of their trailer. And then she came out with me, and we made probably a little 4-foot medicine wheel. And I had her, because she belonged on that property, I had her offer the water. Needless to say, a week later, I got a call from her father, who was delighted. He said, "Whatever you and my daughter did, our property was not touched."
There you go.
And he made me one of the most beautiful metal medicine wheels. It must have been about 5 feet tall, to hang on my house as a thank you.
See, listeners, listen to this story. This is why Meria is so good with medicine wheels and with Reiki. She's got a lot of information. These testimonials are fantastic, Meria, because I used to have a big fear of fire. I must have died. Oh, no, I did. I did past life. I did, yeah.
All right. I had a fear and a fascination with fire.
No, not me.
So for me, it goes both ways. But I don't know, Monty, if you remember. God, it had to be 20 years ago when Florida was in a severe drought. And Florida was on fire. And it was a week that I had planned to go to Florida to, fly there and visit my sisters. And they came and picked me up. I mean, every place from the airport all the way to Cape Canaveral was nothing but thick smoke. And I saw the governor of the state at the time. I don't remember his name. He literally had given up. He came on television and he asked everybody, the only thing we have left is everybody please pray for rain. Because they weren't expecting rain for 2 more months. So I go down to the edge of the beach with my sisters because at least the air was clean there. And I did like you know how kids draw in the sand, or how they make these little sand creatures, castles, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sitting by the water. My sister and her girlfriends are a little ways away from me. And I decide, well, I'm going to draw a medicine wheel in the sand and ask the ocean to bring water, okay?
Oh, yeah.
My sister and her friends are rolling on the floor laughing at me, okay? And the wave came in, and I posited that when the wave comes in, it would take the wheel and bring some rain. Well, the wave comes in, takes the wheel, nothing happens, okay? So my sisters are now really laughing at me, and I said, okay, what did I do wrong? And I said, okay, I'm going to make a bigger wheel, okay? So I make this bigger wheel, and I'm sitting on the beach, and I'm watching and literally saw with my own eyes, everyone did, the ocean started to rise into the air like mist and created clouds where you could see where the ocean water and the clouds literally met in the sky. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I'm telling you, Monica, all hell breaks loose. We just had enough time to run from the beach to my sister's condo, which is, just maybe 100 yards. It was coming down like cats and dogs, okay?
Oh, yeah.
When I went into my room, the radio was on, and I hear a song that I had never heard before, never heard since. And the song, the line I hear when I walk in, soaking wet, was, "How does it feel to be a rainmaker?"
Well, I mean, this demonstrates also the power of every single individual when we utilize tools. And, here in San Francisco, California, we had a drought for 7 years.
Right.
No water. We had to take, 3-minute showers, if not, what do you call it, sponge bath showers. If you used over 50 gallons a day, they'd fine you. I mean, we had strict, when you took a shower, you have to put a bucket in there and collect that water, and that's how you water your plants. I mean, there were so many rules. So finally, in San Francisco, the natives decided that we needed to pray, all of us. So they selected a time, and we all went into prayer, and the next day it rained.
Well, that's
So I'm
great.
a collective force of people getting together, like, of course, I'm a, metaphysical minister since
Right.
1972, and I know that where two or more gathered in his name, quote unquote, it shall be done. So, of course, collective prayer always works. That's why you should always call your friends if you need something. Have them pray for you, or call Unity Prayer Group, which is great. It's free. And there's so many things you can do, but each person has power.
Right.
And when people, I think the worst part is when we act like victims, because that's the wrong response. The key is this is an opportunity to empower yourself and show what you're made of. It shows your character, and it allows growth to happen, which is what's happening during this pandemic. Is people are starting to really reflect and realize, and instead of it being a bummer, look at it as a blessing.
Right. Right.
And so when you tell your wonderful stories about what you've done, it's because you're exercising. This is not a miracle. This is life in action using the right tools.
This is called perfectly natural, not supernatural. And here's the other interesting part. My sister gets a phone call the day after from this Native American woman that she knows very well. And the first thing she said to her was, "Is your sister in town?" And my sister Rose said, "Yes, she is." She said, "Please thank her for bringing the rain."
No.
I walked on the beach, and this woman had a little kiosk where she was selling, little trinkets and whatnot. Yeah. And as we're, plowing through the hot sand, she just takes off from her booth and comes running towards me and hugs me, a total stranger. And I was taken back. I said, "What the hell is this?" Right? She says, "Thank you. Thank you for what you did." So people that are spiritually awake can recognize the light in someone else.
Absolutely.
And it was an amazing thing to me. And the reason I wanted to tell these stories was because as you know, I do a lot of readings just like you do for people.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people are, how could we say, just lost, okay? It could be they took a new job. They don't feel right about it. They moved into a new house. They don't feel right about it. Things like that. And a lot of times I find myself, and I've done this even when I was teaching over in Tuscany many years ago, telling people when you arrive in a new space, it's your duty, and people don't know this, it's your duty to introduce yourself to the spirit keepers of that space.
Yeah.
And you need to not only introduce yourself, say what your purpose is, let it know that, them know that you're not there to harm anything or break anything or create a problem. And for me, this has worked my whole life. Walking into the ocean, stepping on a jellyfish, not getting stung because I had already introduced myself and my purpose before I stepped into the ocean.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't realize that you need to do the same thing, whether it's a new job, whether it's a new house. You need to introduce yourself, even if you're on vacation.
Yeah.
I remember I was working with a business partner out of Vegas, and we were putting together a golf tournament in Kauai for the high rollers in Vegas. And it just happened the weekend we go there were 2 hurricanes headed for Hawaii. And I remember sitting opening night with the whole group, and the winds were blowing like crazy, Monica. And everybody, all the golfers, was asking my partner, "Well, we got a hurricane coming. What are we supposed to do? Are we still going to be playing tomorrow?" Because it was wild, okay? Mm-hmm. My partner knew what I do, and she looks at this whole group and says, "Don't worry, she'll take care of it." And I looked at her like, "What?"
I love it.
So I said, "What do you mean I'll take care of it?" She said, "She'll take care of it." So I go back to my room, and I had a lanai. And I went out on the lanai, and let me tell you, it was blowing like that old movie Hurricane, okay? And I decide that I'm going to call on Pele, because Pele is the goddess of Hawaii.
Right.
And I called on Pele, I introduced myself, I told her who I am, I told her I come in a sacred manner, and I asked her if it's possible, please steer those hurricanes away from here. Well, interestingly enough, the next morning, it was like nothing had ever happened, and the hurricanes turned. They actually announced that
Mm-hmm.
on the news. And funny as it is, talk about a little extra from Spirit, it ended up hitting one of the islands that the military stores a lot of their military weapons on
Wow, that's
instead.
karma.
But this is something that people don't know about, that need to know about, because it
Well,
makes
you
your
know,
life easier.
do you mind if I interrupt you here? Because there's something
Sure.
that you said that just triggered a thought. And, you know, as intuitives, we get our information so quickly, and if we don't say it, it's gone.
Right.
uh, you know, everything is living. Everything inanimate has, you know, if you look under a powerful microscope, you see protons, electrons, and neutrons. And they're moving. They're not standing still, so everything has consciousness. So what I've gotten into the habit of, and I always tell people, especially people that say they hate their home, and I'm like, what did the house ever do to you? Why did you pick a hole in it? You know, it's like, how abusive. The house has consciousness, and if you're trying to sell your house and you're being mean to it, you're not going to sell it at all. It's going to make you stay there.
Right.
So what I do every day is I tell my house how much I love it, and I actually name everything. I have a name for my car, Miss Emerald. My house is called the Empress Lady Coco because she's beige and brown. And my new car is going to be called Cherry Baby because it's red, candy apple red. So I give a name to everything.
I do
my whole house
too.
is Lady Blue. So every single morning I always say, I love you. Thank you for taking care of me. I take care of you always, and I revere you. You are so wonderful. You take care of all of us, and you protect us. So when you talk to things, your car, especially your car, if you're going to get a flat tire, you're going to end up in front of a gas station instead of the middle of the freeway. Right. You know, you get the best of all scenarios. So what Maria's talking about is the consciousness that everything has, and she knows how to manipulate that. And yet we can all do it. It's just she's giving you the way. Book a session with her. She'll show you exactly what to do. I teach lessons too. So I don't care as long as you get this information and start taking your power back.
Right.
That's the most important thing. People don't feel powerful. I'm just one person. What can I do? Everything.
Right. Well, I want to give you the end of that story because I know you're going to love it, Monica. The next day they had a tour in the hotel. We were in a 5-star resort. They had a tour of all
nice.
the gorgeous artwork and statues and everything going on. So I signed up for it because I was still an artist at the time and I wanted to see. So what am I wearing? I put on white jeans. You know how thick jeans are, okay? White jeans, a white shirt. You know, my handbag is white. And I joined this group of about 20 people. We're walking all around. We're seeing all the artwork. Everything's gorgeous. And then I looked down at my handbag and I noticed there's some kind of thick, gooey ash on it. And I was like, wow, where did I rub this against? Well, I go back to my room to change to go down to the beach. And as I take off my white jeans that are still sparkling white all over the outside, and my legs are covered in that same black, gooey ash. And I was like, what in the hell is this? Okay. So yeah. I did everything I could to scrub it off. You know, some people want to say, oh, you know, it's probably the sugar ash. Well, how did it get through my pants and not dirty my pants? So I go down to the beach and this big native kid comes over to set me up on a lounge chair. And I said to him, let me ask you something. I said, something really weird happened to me. And I tell him what happened, right? So he looks at me in a thick Hawaiian accent. I loved it. He says to me, are you here on some spiritual journey? And I was going to give a lecture that night. And I said, yes, I am. He goes, and he starts laughing like that guy that used to do the coffee commercial. And he goes to me, this is exactly what he says. He goes, that's just Pile. She's fucking with you, man. So I guess she wanted to give me a high sign that I owed her one.
Oh my God, that's a riot.
But listen, I have never understood people that are okay with just living this flat, 3-dimensional life here. Mm-hmm. When you open yourself up to the spirit world and you're really living your life in a sacred manner, your life becomes magical. And I don't know how else to say it. So if you're moving into a new house, first thing you want to do is a beautiful send-off and thank you to your old house. But once you get to that
Absolutely.
new space, whether it's a house, whether it's, another country, another state, first thing you want to do is do something sacred. Let them know you come in a sacred manner. You're not there to harm anything. You're there to beautify the space, to love the space, to enjoy the space. And watch how quickly everything turns around.
Always, really fast, and especially people that are going through some hardships right now. They don't know how they're going to pay their rent or whatever. When you love your home, it actually manifests the money that you need in order for you to stay there. It's an amazing thing. And again, miracles are normal. In fact, I put a quote today that talked about miracles. I think it was Da Vinci or, oh my gosh.
I think it was Einstein.
Maybe it was Einstein. I know Einstein's one of my favorites. Don't wait for miracles. Your whole life is a miracle. I love that one too.
Right.
Yeah, it's about how everything is light and sound, and it's always listening, and especially when you're speaking the word like you do, when you speak the word out loud, that has more power than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Even thought,
absolutely.
even visualization. You're speaking the word from yourself, and that is impactful.
Right. Well, years ago, something I don't want to ever do again. I used to do ghost busting. I mean, that's the best way of, describing it, chasing bad
Yeah.
energies out of people's homes. I
Yeah,
actually made the front page of the Arizona Republic several times for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this young woman, she was probably in her early 30s. She had a little son. She and her husband had this beautiful home. I believe it was in Tempe. It backed just to a preserve. It was beautiful. It was a 2-story home. It was really nice. And this girl had been through everybody from the Mayo Clinic to you name it because she was very deathly sick. She couldn't even breathe. She had like one of those breathing tubes that went through her whole house. When she ran out of medical options, she had seen an article of me blessing some of the stores that some of my friends owned. And I would go in and do blessings, and a lot of Native Americans did that at the time as well. And she was out of options, so she called me. And I said, well, okay, I'll come down and check it out. Well, let me tell you, when I go down there, it's unbelievable. There was one room that I couldn't even walk in. I tried to smudge the room, and it blew the smoke back at me. Okay, I was like, holy crap, what's in this house?
I'll say, no, I don't think so.
Right, and I said to her, I said, well, I got to look around your whole house. And I went up to her bedroom, and she had this gorgeous deck outside her bedroom, which overlooked her backyard, which goes to this preserve. And I said to her, look, I need you to get out of here. I need to be in here alone. I don't like anybody seeing how I work, okay? And I didn't want her energy throwing a monkey wrench into it. So I go out on this deck, and I just put myself in a meditative state, and I ask Spirit, show me what happened here. And bingo, right in her backyard, there was a kiva. And a kiva is an underground place that Native Americans hold their ceremonies. And if you see, sometimes you'll see these statues or figurines of Native Americans climbing out of what looks like a tube on these ladders, which are all over the Southwest as decorations. And it's an underground meeting place, and that's where they would hold their sacred things. And they show me, because remember, I'm an artist, so I get my stuff visually like a movie.
Yeah.
And they show me this kiva, and they take me from this porch in my mind inside the kiva where they were doing the butterfly celebration. Now, the butterfly celebration was when young women became women, when they got their menstrual cycle. Everybody in the village would come and celebrate. Young people, old people, everybody. They made a big deal out of it. And I'm watching the celebration, and it's beautiful. And all of a sudden, in come the Bluecoats with the bayonets. And they slaughter each and every one of them. And what they tell me is she was one of the Bluecoats. And I said, well, but she's not that person in this lifetime. What can she do to make up for this? They gave me specific rituals for her to do. She also had to build a medicine wheel, and they gave me a specific prayer she had to repeat over and over again for 24 hours. Well, I sit down with her. I tell her everything. She's bawling. She was crying her eyes out because she was a very spiritual person in this lifetime. She was
Yeah.
so sorry for what she saw as her past life and what happened.
Yeah.
And I said,
Yeah.
listen, they told me all these things you have to do and that I am not allowed to help you do it. You have to do it. So I left her with that. She got busy on what she needed to do. And a week later, the newspapers came back and wanted to interview us because she was 100% healed.
Well, yeah, once you understand the genesis of anything, you can heal it, which is why I'm writing about reincarnation in my past life in Auschwitz. Actually, when I went to Auschwitz, I sat there where Mengele was selecting people, and then I realized the stuff that I had done and why I came back in this lifetime to be humanitarian and alone. So I've never been married, don't have any children. It's for me to be there for other human beings. So you can see how bad I must have been in that past life. Well, I sat there at Auschwitz, Birkenau, and for 3 hours just sat down and I took in everything, and I kept saying, please forgive me, please forgive me. And then I heard a voice saying, no, you must forgive yourself. And after that, boom, it was over.
Right. Well, I was happy to do that for her. I did that in a lot of places, not just here. I did a lot of work in California as well at that time. Because people would call me to come clear their homes. And let me tell you, I came across some pretty crazy stuff. Some of it was pretty scary.
I can imagine that, Meria. The thing about it is it's about time for people to learn on their own. I mean, we can help only so many people, And the thing is that this is why I think we do our show, because we're giving the listeners tools to help them help themselves.
Exactly.
So when you talk about your experiences, or I'll talk about mine, it's to show you that we're not bullshitting you.
Well,
we're telling you that this works.
Well, I remember one house where they built the house right over a Native American cemetery. I mean, in California, very similar things where the land was not respected, whether it was a graveyard or whatever. And the new owners have no idea of this. It's not something your realtor's going to tell you about what happened when the Bluecoats arrived and slaughtered, an entire tribe. And I've seen a lot of that in Arizona.
I can imagine.
But I will tell you this. I have worked with a lot of different tools in my life. I'm sure you have too. From tarot to crystals to, divining rods, whatever you want to call it. I have yet to ever see anything as powerful as working with the medicine wheel. Ever.
Yeah.
And
I think that's your thing. I think because everybody resonates to something different.
Right.
And I think that is truly, you've got some past lives with that. Major.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know of a lot of my past lives, but I won't mention them on air because that's who I used to be. I don't need to impress anybody with who I used to be. It's hard enough being Maria Heller this time around.
Well, we're a collective of every single lifetime, because I'm not going to get into this. This is my past life. It's my business. But I can tell you that the more you know that you don't know.
Exactly.
And it's always a good idea to learn something new every single day, period.
And for my listeners out there, I have a full-length video on how to build and work with a medicine wheel. All right, it was shot when I was in my 40s, so you can see how cute and chubby I was. On the site. I have a full-length book on it on the site as an ebook. And listen, there's a lot of Sunbear's work that's still around. But once Sunbear crossed over, he came to me and told me to take it to the next level. And I said, what do you mean take it to the next level? He says, make it where everyone can use it. In other words, it's no longer just a tool for Native Americans. Make it where everyone feels comfortable. And that's how the universal medicine wheel came in. That whole story's in the book. But, some people may say, oh, this is all pretty crazy. But to me, if it works, don't fix it. That's always been my motto.
Absolutely, don't reinvent the wheel. And there's so many tools out there. This is why we teach.
Well, I call the book Reinventing the Wheel.
You resonate to the tool that you like the most and start using that one. Keep it simple.
Right.
And then start adding to your repertoire of different tools and then share them with other people.
Right. Well, even as a Reiki master, okay, I have a new student coming in this weekend. On the solstice is the best time to get your attunements. So she'll be getting her second level. I have a wonderful gal coming in next month from Virginia to get her master's level. I do those attunements inside my medicine wheel. And that's why my students have stronger Reiki than anyone else,
Mm-hmm.
because it's an amplifier of all things good.
Bingo, an amplifier.
Right. So, there's a reason that, here in Sedona, as soon as, people go up there for their spiritual journeys, and they'll build a medicine wheel. Well, the Parks Department will dismantle them immediately.
Yeah.
When we
One thing that
went.
people can do right now is go to their backyard if you have grass or soil or whatever. Take your shoes off and stand there for about 10 minutes. Or if you can't stand, sit on a chair. Make sure that your feet are touching the ground and just feel Mother Earth's love coming into your being and filling you. That's a great way to balance and
Absolutely.
use nature.
Absolutely.
And Maria was talking about how you have to approach, a house or a job or whatever and make sure that you're letting it know your intention. Please do it when you go up to a tree. Don't just hug it. Ask the tree if you can hug it, because trees are afraid of humans. They've been cut down and burnt down and everything.
Oh, yeah.
They don't really trust humans. So you've got to always do that with nature.
Absolutely.
Even when I pick my lemons from the tree, I just thank it for this lemon, and I just give it a tug, and if it gives, that means it's ready to give itself to me.
But that's about living in a sacred manner. I told one of my friends this week, even when I trim my trees, I Reiki them first and I say, I'm just doing this for your benefit. I'm not going to hurt you. And when I forgot to do that once, some of these trees got some pretty gnarly thorns on them. I was like all sliced up. And I was like,
my God.
I guess I forgot. I forgot to let them know. Right? So you'll always get a reminder. Monty, we need to take a short break. When we get back, we're going to talk about something else that I find very interesting is, why do some things show up in a reading and some things don't? So stay with us.
I love that.
Yeah, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Monnica Sepulveda of Wake Up with Meria and Monnica. You can hear our show every third Tuesday, and we give you tools, solutions, and the way to change your life forever. Each morning you can either choose fear, worry, hate, anger, or you can just choose love, which balances everything and changes the trajectory of your life. Maria's show is so amazing. You need to tell another person. For the small amount of money that you pay for a subscription and the value that you receive in return with her guests who are unmatched, with her wisdom, with her reports of what's happening on this planet, how to change it, and with that sense of humor, oh my gosh. Her Reiki sessions blow my mind. Every time she has sent me some Reiki, it works. I heal, and I'm just blown away by this old soul, Meria. I'm glad to call her my friend. I hope that you book a session with her for a Reiki session or for a reading, because you will not be disappointed. But most important, tell a friend about her show. Take care and make it a great day. It's a choice, Bye.